Happy Friday, everybody. And, everybody asks about Bella. Here she is, getting big, getting long, getting tall, getting heavy, getting harder to chase, hates to be picked up, and as black can be, so can't see her. Hanging out with me, to my left.
Good morning, Craig Ugland. It is good to be back. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. So hopefully you guys didn't miss me too much last week.
Keep going, Craig, so I can get Bella, on the other side of the barrier, so she doesn't chew on our wires.
I build walls. So, yeah, sorry I couldn't be here last week.
Can you not fill in very well here, or what?
I guess not today.
Are our mics kind of our volume here? We need to adjust it.
Yeah.
Let me adjust it so you keep going. We'll get some people on here.
Oh, sweet. So I was just listening to the podcast from last week, and it some good conversation. It was a little shorter than normal, but I guess Martha May doesn't talk as much as I do, or something like that. So, and Matt's got a big get together again tonight. Oh no, I lost everything.
You lost it?
Shannon, yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay, good. So, Matt, who's playing, or you just have the movie tonight?
Yeah.
And then next week is a band again?
Can you hear?
Yep, I can hear. We're good. Sorry, everybody.
Is that better?
Technical difficulties.
Well, such is life, right?
Yeah, that's all right. We're getting it worked out.
A little bit of feedback in here today, too. Can you hear that? We are going to talk about U.S. economy stuff. We are going to talk about entertainment. We are going to talk about some politics.
Of course.
Got to do the politics, right? What else are we doing? Local? Should we do local?
Yeah, get some car stuff.
We're going to talk about some local stuff today, too. But let's dig into the hard stuff. Let's do some heavy lifting right away. Send us your comments. Hopefully the internet's working okay. I mean, my phone says we're good. We're in the country, having a blast. Let's do this.
Absolutely.
Let's start out with this one. More Americans want an investigation of 2020 riots than January 6th Capitol breach. We'll start there. Get some of this heavy lifting out of the way, huh? This show, It Matters, is designed and meant to be shining a light on the different news, things that are going on in and around the country, specifically entertainment-wise. We specifically talk about politics. We specifically talk about local, because if it's happening near us, it's probably happening near you. Make sure that you send us a comment on these things. We will be talking about that at the end of the show today, so we'll read through your comments. Appreciate you being here, but let's dig into it. As the House January 6th committee ramped up on Tuesday and featured testimony from 4 officers from the Capitol Police and D.C. Metro departments, a new survey said that most Americans would rather Congress focus on the rioting that took place for most of last year. According to the Rasmussen reports, a significantly higher number of Americans think lawmakers ought to be holding investigatory hearings on the Black Lives Matter protests that sparked violence following the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis in late May 2020. Then the riot that led to a breach of the U.S. Capitol building earlier this year as Congress met to certify the November election. Overall, some 66% of likely U.S. voters said they think Congress ought to officially launch a probe of the violent protests that left an extensive and expensive trail of burned out businesses, destroyed city blocks, looted stores, and injured police officers in most major cities around the country. Woo! I mean, I can go on. 49% of Americans are on board with Speaker Pelosi on the 1-6 committee. And actually, let's do this. This is a pretty interesting breakdown, I thought, and this is what drew me into this article a little bit, was 67% of whites, 64% of black, 66% of Hispanic and 62% of other minorities voters, specifically voting people, think Congress should investigate the 2020 riots in U.S. cities.
It's what I struggle with is the complete politicization of the 1/6 insurrection, which I don't think it's an insurrection, and how big of a deal they're making out of that. And was it a bad thing? Yes, absolutely. But how they're absolutely minimizing all of the protests and rioting. It wasn't protests. It was rioting that happened in Minneapolis and Portland and Washington. And we've talked about that a fair amount. And I have a buddy that was protecting the courthouse out in Oregon, and he was, he got lasered and he got stuff thrown at him. And I mean, this was going on for months and months and months. And there was hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of damage. And yes, they are prosecuting people, but they're not going through. It doesn't appear that they're going through video and photographs with a fine-tooth comb like they are with Capitol event on January 6th. I mean, our Congress is quite literally going person to person for anybody that they had evidence of at the Capitol.
Yeah.
And there's just so much other information about, the Capitol Police opening up gates and opening up doors and this and that. And they're making a mountain out of a molehill, and they're completely burying the riots of last summer. So that's my frustration is why the storyline like that? What are they trying to do?
I agree. And I looked up a lot of the different articles. Let me say it like this. Congruency is super important. And when you don't have that, you start to lose confidence in those who are leading, right?
Right.
If you don't have the consistency, if you don't have the things that are, this is not everything that I've read, this is not bipartisan.
Oh, no.
And that's ultimately the point is that from a American that votes, I myself am like, this doesn't add up.
It's completely politicized.
Yeah. And so why are you focusing so heavily and diligently on this particular thing? Because it and I want to say there was a terrible thing that happened.
Yeah.
There was the violence that happened there was outrageously bad. But then you have to look at it in relationship, the way and balance. There's videos of police officers opening up gates, opening up doors.
Absolutely.
And so there's a lot, and my point to that is there's a lot of innocent people like, oh, the gates are open, let's go. Right. And things like that. So I think the people that did do the violence, yes, let's prosecute them and to the extent of the law, but let's not be hyperbolic on it. And oh, by the way, let's look at everything evenly. Let's look at all the other things. Literally, Kamala Harris and her staff has notably raised money in 2020 for people who are Antifa. For bail money, getting them out of jail. There was one woman I remember reading about, she was in a riot, she was thrown in jail, she got out, never was sentenced, never went to court, never any of that. Guess what happened a month later?
She probably got caught
again. Yep. Burning a building down. And guess what? No prosecution.
And
these are federal buildings.
Right. That's federal crime.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where my buddy was working, is on those federal buildings. And, everything is being looked at through a magnifying glass. And I honestly don't think that Pelosi and her crew have any desire to show transparency and fairness. If she really wanted to make this look legitimate, even if it was just an outside appearance, she would have allowed Republicans on that board. But she doesn't have a care in the world about that. She's so anti-Trump. That's all. In my view, she's so anti-Trump. She's just looking past all the optics of how this looks. That was a double. But that's the frustrating part. She just doesn't care anymore. And no. It's not just her. It's all the rhinos in the Capitol. It's
and frankly, Mitch McConnell is just like,
I was going to say the same thing.
All
of them.
Yeah,
that whole upper
the
echelon,
the political establishment,
right.
And it's
just a chess game for him.
It is, and I don't know. It's very difficult. So one of these articles here too that I wanted to specifically pull up. The House Select Committee investigating the January 6th insurrection kicked off Tuesday against the backdrop of hundreds of criminal prosecutions that for months have detailed the violence at the Capitol. Work that continued to unfold as police officers provide harrowing accounts of the attacks they experienced that day. There's a lot, and I don't want to just read here, but there's a lot of articles very similar to this that talks about these police officers that were, crying and people making fun of them for that and all these other things. And whether that's good or bad or in between doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The thing, the other thing that I wanted to possibly highlight, where did it go? I had it. Well, we're going to have to do this one off of memory here because for some reason it pulled up just the Washington Times homepage here now. But that is, you remember in April when the guy ran his car into the
guard barrier.
Yeah, yep.
Checkpoint. Yep.
Ran into two guards. One of them ended up passing away.
Mm-hmm.
And they ended up killing the assailant. But he has, they didn't investigate any deeper into that, and he has ties to Louis Farrakhan, and then the nation, right? And then which of course is the Nation of Islam or whatever other organization is, which is tied to terrorism,
right?
Quite literally, and so. Why is that okay? And they don't dig. Why isn't there a commission on that? Was he acting alone? Was he not? We don't know.
Right.
Are they training people like him? What was his name? Like something Green or whatever was the guy's last name, I believe.
I don't recall the name, but yeah.
But yeah, so it's one of those things that it's like, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's not, like I say, congruent. It's not equal. Now, I want to say this as well. I read that there was around 60 police officers, I believe specifically Capitol Police, that were injured in 2020 from all the riots, like serious injuries. Where's the investigation? That's my question.
From the Capitol riots or the riots? Yeah.
Is it from the riots of 2020?
Oh, right.
I'm not talking
around the country.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, in D.C.
Oh, just in D.C.
Yeah.
Good question. And you had touched on something, and I wanted to talk about that too. Is anybody that knows me or has watched the shows know that I back the blue, and I'm very pro law enforcement, and not saying that there aren't bad cops, just like there's bad elements in anything. But I found it very interesting the show almost that the Capitol Police were putting on, the tears, the trauma that they went through. And I'm not trying to understate what they saw, but I can't imagine that being a Capitol Police officer is as stressful or dangerous as the police in Minneapolis and Chicago and Portland and all these other towns where all these riots have happened. And I don't know if it was just a put on for the show or if they it felt a bit much. Disingenuous.
Very disingenuous. I agree. And I want to say too that this is right off the internet. In fact, you go right to my page and these are news articles we use the Washington Post, Washington Times, New York, all of them, CNN, Fox,
MSNBC,
all over the place. And this is not something that, it's like some right-wing news organization or left-wing news organization. It's a balance. We're looking at all of those different things, and does this article match this, and what's the fact of it? And I literally have been to Portland and drove right past where all the these things during the day, mind you. I wasn't there, right? But no, I'm good. But the point being is, total self-preservation. The point being is that I was in a cab, literally, with this gentleman saying that there's nothing to see here. He didn't say those words, but he's like, that's not that bad. And there's dumpsters literally smoldering when we're driving by there, and there's buildings all boarded up that clearly had a fire, and it's not that bad.
Nothing to see.
I just don't get it. How is that not bad?
And it's not even an out of sight, out of mind. It's right in front of your face, but you're so brainwashed on what you're being told by whatever media you follow that you have your blinders on to reality that's slapping you in the face. And like you said, when I pick articles, I consciously try to find articles from news sources that wouldn't be expected. Like you said, the broad spectrum, not just Fox News or Political or BuzzFeed or CNN, but everything, to try and not just look at one source that people would feel is a bias.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's very rare that I don't look at 2 or 3 articles from different sources on one, like this subject. like this particular subject this week. I looked at 6 different articles, right? And you try to sort through that and see what makes sense, what's political, what is truth, right? And it's definitely super hyperbolic on what they're doing in court, or whatever you want to call it right now.
Yeah.
That's the way they're trying to spin it, at least, that this is, and some of it is court. But the point, really the bottom line point is, without saying the same thing over and over again, is look it up for yourself. Do your homework. Don't take my word for it. Don't take Craig's word for it. I'm going to throw that right out there, Craig. We're here to share what we've learned, our opinion and our perspective, and encourage you to go and do the same. So send us a comment. We will read them at the end, but we want to talk about, let's talk about economy stuff. Let's slide over into that. U.S. home prices surged 17% in May, fastest in 17 years. You know anybody that could talk on this?
I may know one or two.
One or two? All right. Anybody that's available right at the moment?
I know a guy. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Prices for U.S. homes rose faster in May than they have in 17 years as surging demand for housing outstripped the supply. The S&P CoreLogic Case-Shiller 20-City Home Price Index, that is a mouthful, released Tuesday, soared 17% in May from a year earlier, on top of a 15% jump in April. The May increase was the biggest since August 2004. The hottest markets were Phoenix, San Diego, and Seattle. All 20 cities reported faster year-over-year growth in May than they did in April. The U.S. housing market has been hot.
Understatement.
Yeah. Many Americans tired of being cooped up at home during the pandemic, have traded in apartments and small homes in city for bigger houses in the suburbs. The Federal Reserve's easy money policies have also kept mortgages rates near historic lows, pushing up demand for housing. Let's go.
So, I'm a realtor, and one of the questions I get asked is, when is the bubble going to burst? When's it going to burst? And everybody thinks of 2007, when the market completely collapsed. And we are not in that situation. The reason that the market collapsed in 2007 is there was an abundance of inventory. There was way too many houses built for the number of buyers, and banks were giving loans to anybody and everybody, pulse or not. Pulses were optional, and it was predatory lending. And there have been laws passed since then to eliminate the federal or the predatory lending, so that they are pre-qualifying buyers more appropriately, so that we're not going to have the foreclosure problems that we did following the crash. And
It's okay. The taxpayers will bail them out.
Right. Exactly. And we just had a corporate meeting on Tuesday this week, and this was discussed, and they had, they have all the stats from national and Minnesota. And when you look at where houses were in 2004, 5, and 6 and where they are now, we're just kind of catching up to where the inflation would have brought the houses anyway. But the cool thing is your buying power has gone from the same payment for a $200,000 house is you're having that same payment and you're buying a $300,000 house. So it's not like you can buy less. You're able to buy more. So that kind of offsets the increase in the house prices, and people, going back to what I started with, is, are we going to crash again? I think we're starting to slow down compared to where we were 2 months ago, but I don't foresee a crash. And the reason is we don't have the inventory, and it's all about supply and demand. And if you don't have the inventory, you're going to have a lot more buyers than you're going to have sellers, and that's going to support those prices. And there's just no fast way to rebuild that inventory. That's not a 2-year turnaround to build 6,000 houses in Rochester, Minnesota. We don't have the developers and the money, and the city would allow the dirt to be pushed to build 6,000 houses in 2 years. It ain't going to happen. I don't know if they could do that in the cities.
No, right. Yeah.
So, and people say, oh my gosh, the market's crashing right now. No, it's not. A listing that would sell in 2 days with 10 offers is, oh my gosh, it's taken 3 or 4 weeks to sell. That's still amazing.
Yeah.
that people are getting their houses, their listings sold in 2 to 3 weeks. 2 days was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to buy, don't be scared that you're going to buy high and the market's going to crash. That's not the case.
It's possible, obviously.
Anything is possible. I don't foresee it up here.
Right. And the thing with inflation and but did you see anything like this? Investment firms are buying all the houses, aren't buying all the houses, but they are buying the most important ones. Thought this was pretty interesting. I actually read this article, or I briefed this article like a month ago when it came out, but the median price of American houses has increased by 28% over the last 2 years as pandemic-driven demand and long-term demographic changes send buyers into crazed bidding wars. Might the fact that corporate investors snapped up 15% of U.S. homes for sale in the first quarter of this year have something to do with it? The Wall Street Journal reported in April that an investment firm won a bidding war to purchase an entire neighborhood worth of single-family homes in Conroe, Texas, part of a cycle of stories drumming up panic over Wall Street's increasing stake in residential real estate. Then came the backlash as cool-headed analysts reassured us that the big investors like BlackRock remain insignificant players in the housing market compared with regular old American families. I'm going to leave it at that. What do you think of that?
I haven't seen that up here, and I haven't heard of any wind of that in our office. And the office I work for, we have like a 25% market share in Rochester, so we have a pretty good pulse on what's going on. And I haven't caught wind of that. There's some fly-by-night real estate agencies that are buying houses sight unseen for ridiculous amounts of money, and it's I don't know how they're going to make it through. I mean, they're buying houses that they're paying 20 or 30% above these crazy numbers, and then they're supposed to turn around and resell them and make a profit. I have no idea how that's going to work. So
like BlackRock here, I don't remember specifically, but when I was reading through some of this, I mean, they're a whole neighborhood. I mean, and
you can't buy. There isn't a neighborhood for sale in Rochester.
No, but I'm saying, this is U.S. economy,
right, yeah.
And so that this is important. I think, because what it looks to me is, when I was looking through this, some of these homes that they're buying up, they were buying up for literally 20-30% more than what they were technically worth. BlackRock themselves were. So what's the angle? What's, to me, and but it kind of gets to, I mean, you could go really, really weird on it and say things like, this is part of the Great Reset, and that it's, their theme of this Great Reset thing is you will own nothing and like it. I mean, there's literally literature printed with that. I don't know if you've seen it. But yeah. And so, some say that it's part of that, and others say that, these are 30 to 50 year investments and some of those types of things. Either way, when you go in and buy up a whole neighborhood and it's above what,
what the market rate is, that's already high.
Yeah. There's some sort of plan there. That's not just, hey, this is a great investment. We're buying it cheap. We're going to sell it high. They're renting these properties out. I mean, by the billions of dollars, they're buying up real estate.
And number one, are they banking on the influx of people from California? Is that, moving to Texas to get out of the political concerns in California? That's a pretty big risk there. To buy these houses and have them as rentals for 50 years. I mean, there's neighborhoods in Rochester that kind of happened, where they built these neighborhoods and a majority of them are rentals, and renters typically aren't kind to properties. So what's the value of these houses going to be after 20 years? Now, granted, in 20 years of rental, your investment's going to be paid off and you're going to be
exactly
money,
and then
but you're going to be left with junk.
But you own the land.
So maybe that's their angle, is the return on investment in a 20-year plan. But man, that's a pretty ballsy move. Yeah,
but they're doing it. I mean, we see it right here. Wall Street Journal or what was it, Forbes that they quoted or whatever in here, Wall Street Journal. So it's happening. It's real. It doesn't, it's not like it's just And
you get into some of those bigger towns and you get the national builders. Rochester had Centex down here in the mid 2000s, and they built a lot of the townhome developments. And I don't even know if Centex is around, but there's a lot of national builders where they're building in like huge neighborhoods of 1,000 houses. So maybe that's, these guys have their foot in the door with those national builders, and they're paying 30% above market rate, but is that market rate maybe underinflated, and maybe it ends up where they are truly paying the market rate, but just some backdoor dealings, maybe that's the angle. I don't know. That's a big risk.
It seems to be, but it seems they're doing it. It's working. I mean, they're coming in and buying these, like I say, 23% higher than what they're even asking for it, which knocks out a lot of people.
And I mean, there's an example of an agent in my office just listed a house up in Cimarron, and the investors had it for 25 years. I think they bought it a few years after it was built, and they rented it for 20 years. They had steady income. They paid off the mortgage a long time ago, and here they're selling their house for at least double what they paid for it 25 years ago, with a minimal amount of maintenance on it. It's a decent house, but it was a rental. It needs some TLC, but for that investor, that money, for that investor, it definitely paid off. And I guess that's going to have to be where these folks are looking at, is that long term, like you said. What's that? We don't have the crystal ball of what the market's going to be in 20 years.
No, for sure.
But I don't know, maybe they're the smart ones.
Hard to say.
If they've got billions of dollars to play with, I'm guessing they're not dumb.
Yeah, well, that's a different topic.
Yeah.
I just think it's very interesting that this stuff is really happening. it's never happened like this before.
Not that I know. I mean, I've only been in real estate for 7 years, but I talk to agents that have been in it 20 and 30 years, and there's some guys in town that, not guys, there's agents in town that, I mean, they own 100 or more rentals.
Mm-hmm.
That's their retirement. They've had somebody else pay those mortgages for 30 years, and now they're sitting in a house that's doubled in value and it's paid off.
Yeah.
And they've made money in 30 years.
Right.
So there's something to it.
Yeah, there's something to it. And you have to be willing to take the risk.
Right. Capitalism.
Yeah. Evil capitalism.
Yeah. Risk and reward.
AOC hates capitalism. And she, like take my nice Stay Calm and Be Hope shirt.
Yep.
$20. Sell these for $20.
It's a deal.
Hers t-shirts on her website are like $40 or $38 or something like that. Yeah, no
She's
kidding.
making way too much profit on those shirts.
And sweatshirts at like $60. She doesn't like capitalism.
Unless it's
driving a Tesla.
Yeah.
I mean, I could go.
iPhone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, sure.
Do as they say.
Yeah, that's right. It's good for me, but it's not for you. Hey, if you like what we're doing, hammer. I have a video. Actually, I got about 4 messages in the last month. We want the video. We want the video. Like, yeah, I have to find it again. But I like to be corny and have some fun. So I have this weird video about hammering the share button, like button, and everything. But if you like what we do, hammer the share button, hammer the like button. We really appreciate it. It helps other people see the podcast because you have proof, because I sent it to you, that I literally cannot buy to promote this podcast.
Crazy. I don't want your money. Keep your money.
Yes. And they literally, because of the topics that are discussed and opinions, they literally will not let me give them money. I said as a test. Mm-hmm. I have a few times. They literally won't let me give them money to promote the podcast, period. So we need your help. Hit the share button. It's important to us.
Hammer that like button.
Hammer it. I said hit, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
Minnesota adopts clean car standards in push for more electric car availability. I'm going to throw you like out here in the middle of traffic on this one. Did you pick this article?
I did.
You did. All right. I thought so. I know you did. I just wanted to say it in a way that you could answer.
Yeah. I'm not ashamed.
And what's interesting is because we talked about the mines and stuff a month ago or whatever, and what they do for electric car batteries and whatever. So I think there's a plan here. You got your wheels are, no pun intended, spinning. But
not too bad.
Yeah, Governor Walz calls it a win across the board. Out of Minneapolis, WCCO. Minnesota is the 15th state to adopt clean car standards that push for more availability of electric and low-emission vehicles. The new standards were finalized by the state register Monday. Governor Tim Walz and Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan made the announcement, saying the clean car standards will reduce carbon emissions, create good-paying jobs, quote, jobs that boost Minnesota's manufacturing industry and increase choices Minnesotans have in purchasing cars. The pair visited Phillips and Temro Industries in Eden Prairie, which manufactures clean car automotive parts. Should I skip down to... let me skip down to... Representative Josh Hintzman out of a Republican out of Nisswa, Minnesota, also issued a statement saying that the new standards will raise the cost of all cars in the state. As inflation surges across the country thanks to Democratic policies, Governor Walz is celebrating an expensive new California mandate that will raise the price of all cars by $1,000 or more. Simple economics dictates that if consumers can't talk, want electric vehicles, dealers will stock them instead of letting the market work. Governor Walz is making cars more expensive for all Minnesotans by bringing California mandates here to Minnesota. Boom.
there are so many different angles and facets to this. And when I pull up articles like this, I like to look at the comments because you get all kinds of different opinions. And one of them I saw was actually a guy that I know, a good friend, and he has relationships with dealerships, and he said the problem with mandating these dealerships to carry this inventory is if they don't sell, the dealerships are the ones that are going to take in the shorts because they're going to sit on this inventory. They're going to have to bottom out the prices to get rid of that inventory because of a mandate from the governor. So there's that part of it. I look at it as, why are you forcing this down our throat? I would love to have a Tesla. Yes, it's supposedly good for the environment. You know why I want a Tesla? Because they're super freaking fast.
Exactly.
Like, they can beat most sports cars off the line. They're insane. That's why I want one, because of the performance. And they're cool looking cars. But I don't expect the federal government to subsidize me to have a fun car like that. If I want it, I need to pony up, and don't make me buy it. It should be my choice to do it. And some of the other things and we've talked about that, the mining for the special minerals for the batteries, and then the recycling the batteries. And the argument was, well, you have to mine for the raw materials for standard cars and this and that. And I understand that, but if you're mining to build a frame for a conventional combustion engine car and engine, you're still mining, to me, that's a wash. Frame for this, frame for that. But it's also the end game of how are we recycling these batteries? It's pretty easy to recycle a fried combustion engine. You melt it and you rebuild another engine. I don't think they've got the technology to do that yet with the batteries.
They don't.
And maybe, things are always expensive when they're new, and you find solutions for those problems. And maybe in a few years they'll figure that out. But there's already evidence. There's junkyards full of electric cars over in Europe because they can't recycle those batteries yet. And it's cost inhibitive to replace the batteries. The batteries are worth more than the car that has 100,000 miles on it. So, it's kind of like the windmills, and you see the fields and fields and fields of windmill blades because there's no way to recycle them yet. Well, we better figure it out. If we're going to be pushing these things, we need to figure out what happens at the end of the lifespan.
But Craig, wait. It feels good.
Well, we're paying for it.
Or very much. I agree. I agree.
We pay for a lot of things.
You know what happens? You know what happens when the government gets out of the way? Innovation.
Things work themselves out. Yes. Elon Musk. Innovation.
I mean, it's so get out of the way.
Yeah.
You and I will do the rest.
Let the consumers push it.
That's right. We will drive it. And if you sell me on that this is good for the environment, I'll listen to it. You force it down me, I'm going to be like, I'm going to look into this. And when you do look into it, like you say, the batteries, the recycling, the windmills, all of these things, it's not, again, I'm going to use the word congruent. It's not congruent. It's not equal. It's not even, all those things.
And okay.
Fossil fuels. I've asked you this question, I think, before. Where do they come from?
Fossils.
What are
dinosaurs?
What are fossils? Dead
living thing or formerly living things.
Yeah. It's
and that
flesh.
Will continue.
Exactly. What we don't know is that, and it's gross to really think about, but I will replenish some of those fuels. My oils, when I die, will go into the ground. It'll filter down through, blah, blah, blah. The dead deer on the side of the road, same thing. It's weird and not cool to think about, but we're replenishing it, right? And so, but what we don't know is the rate we're replenishing fossil fuels at. What we do know is that there are areas that fossil fuels just explode out of the earth because of so much pressure being built up. Well, how good is that for the environment then, if you want to say that?
Right.
So we need to use it. It's there to be used.
And this meme has been floating around forever, and I haven't researched it to see the truth behind it. But they have a picture of a volcano, and they said one eruption from this volcano puts more CO and every other thing that is bad for the environment into our atmosphere than we have in 100 years. Is that true? I have no idea, but it makes you think. Like, are we really destroying? Do we need to be responsible with our environment and our Earth? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
But are we really having that big of an effect on it? Or is it just the natural cycles? And I'm not saying let's go dump nuclear waste in our oceans. That's stupid. We have to be responsible, but there's that. I don't even think it's a fine line, but there's a line of, okay, we're going overboard. Why do we have to? How does paying our government tax penalties help the environment? You know, buying carbon credits, how does that really protect the environment?
Yeah. Protect somebody's pocket.
It protects somebody's pocket. And I'm sure somebody that would be seeing this would be like, well, because then the government can use that money to do research to make things better and force.
Because they're really good with their money.
Right, exactly.
Oh, wait, it's our money. Tax
money.
Yeah, they're
but
really
it's federal
good.
money. It's not local money.
Oh, I pay federal taxes. I don't even want to go down that road.
So
Way too.
I think we need to be responsible. That's a no-brainer. But I think we've gone overboard on that responsibility, on how they're forcing that responsibility. Yes, corporations can't be dumping waste into our rivers and our oceans and into the ground. Duh. But you know, and the solar energy and the wind energy, it's great, but it's so subsidized, and it's not a consistent power source. And that's a big thing too. Is okay, you're pushing all these electric vehicles. Our infrastructure can barely handle what we do now. How are they going to be able to handle all these cars being plugged in at night? Because at night you don't get solar farms. They don't work at night. We don't have the technology for the batteries. And yes, if you push it, the innovations will come. But we're having brownouts because air conditioners are running. Right.
But you absolutely, incredibly valid point. But you don't come up with good things when you push it, in my opinion. You become
force it.
Force it. You're absolutely right. Choice of words is important. When you force it like that, you don't come up with good solutions. You come up with
band-aids.
Yes. And then the real innovation can't happen because they're like, well, we got this. We're okay.
This will work. We plugged the hole for now.
Exactly. But when you have the incentive in there to make something happen and work and make sense, it'll happen. Cars, they wanted to get rid of the horse and buggy, all of it, Anyway, I think we could talk about this way too long and probably not.
Already have.
Probably. But let's do some entertainment. Let's end this program today with some fun. You ever seen Stranger Things?
No, but I have to put it on my list now. It's going to be a long list.
Yeah. I love the entertainment segment because I work too hard, but so it's fun. This is fun for me, but Stranger Things, Caleb McLaughlin says that season 4 storylines are insane.
Hype man.
This is going to be fun. I need to watch season 2 and 3 yet, but
I'm going to have to watch 1, 2, and 3 before.
I might just go back to 1.
Is it on Netflix or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Netflix, I think.
We'll have to get into
one of those, yeah. So Stranger Things, Caleb McLaughlin is opening up about season 4, and he says the lines are going to be insane. Stranger Things is a Netflix original. There it is, Netflix. We got it. Just read. Original series that debuted in 2016. The first 3 seasons were a major hit on the streaming service, but the COVID-19 pandemic threw a wrench into season 4's plans. Filming was delayed during the pandemic, and the release date is still unknown. However, the delay may actually benefit the show in that it has given the crew more time to prepare for the 4th season. And the kids are going to look a whole lot older. That's one thing.
What's the basis of the show? What's the storyline?
Well, so if you haven't seen it, basically they find this I would say alternate type universe you know,
it's like a science fiction.
It's
kinda.
totally science
sci-fi.
fiction. And this one girl is, you know, they find she's got like these superhuman abilities, and you know, of course, these government agents have been covering up these studies forever, and you know, this little town. It's fun. I don't want to give too much of it away, but it's worth watching.
Okay.
I really enjoyed season 1, and
Okay.
I just haven't gotten to season 2. I don't know why. Honestly,
You're on the plane all the time.
well, they don't have them on the plane. That's the problem.
See, we got hooked on Yellowstone because of JetBlue. We got to see
Oh,
the
yeah?
first 4 episodes, and we just got what's the NBC streaming now?
Is it Peacock or something?
For the Olympics, and Yellowstone's on there, so we can continue on with that.
I've heard that's really good too, but
it's like a Cowboy Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah,
it's pretty awesome.
I've heard it's really good.
Yeah. Anyway, Stranger Things.
No, but it's just fun to talk about entertainment, some of this kind of stuff. You know, he talks about his character's resurrection, and there's a spoiler.
And altered universes or something like that.
Yeah. So, you know, there'll be teasers that it talks about coming out and different things. And I don't know, don't want to give too much of it away either, but this article kind of does. And I'll say McLaughlin expressed his excitement for viewers to watch the 4th season, explaining that they've been filming for the past 2 years now because of the pandemic. However, he promised that season 4 will be unlike any of the seasons thus far. Again, describing insane storylines and stuff. So that's one thing. But there's the cast. I don't know if we can show that. Yeah, there we go. And
so they will be a little.
So they'll be So it's been
growing up.
I like watching shows like this where the kid actors, you kind of watch them grow. Harry Potter is a good one.
See, I'm more of the Shameless kind of shows.
Sure.
And we've watched the 7 seasons or 8 seasons multiple times, and it's you go from 3 to 4 or 4 to 5 or whatever, and it's when kids hit that stage, it's like, holy crap, what happened to them in the off season? Yeah, it's fun to see.
Yeah, for sure is.
And their acting abilities develop too. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
big time.
That's huge.
Yeah.
But anyway, hey, thanks for joining us today. I don't know if there's anything else on the you want to say. We'll get to the comments now. It's us. You know, people have asked, why are you doing this on Fridays in the summertime? And you know, because it matters. Like that's the name of the podcast.
Right.
Like in fact, shh, it matters. And you know, it's just really important that you stay consistent and do this thing as often as possible, which is once a week for us. I agree. A lot happened over the summer of 2020. What people need to look at. So many amazing people have changed our history with words and still being peaceful. Amen. So much of all or nothing in these ongoing problems, and our police protect our flag. They put it above themselves, and I feel they should be respected. It's difficult because all of these riots should be investigated. Why shouldn't be one that's more important than the other? Absolutely agree. I look at a lot of different articles because it seems today a lot is left out or unsaid. To change someone's point of view on serious topics, doing the homework is really important. And I would say what really specifically in some of these pandemic instances is you made me look. The things that they were doing that didn't add up and make any sense, they made me look at it, made me look closer at it, and I started to realize why I do not watch the news, because it is all just hyperbolic. They're trying to, well, frankly, they're trying to get their revenue. So they're doing whatever they need to do to just drive that knife into their audience and keep them involved and engaged, and they don't care if they're lying to do it. So, and then the last comment today, love Shameless. Did you get any comments? Like,
oh no, I haven't.
Just emailing your clients, or
no? I was pulling up something I'm going to mention here. But.
Yeah, I have Text. Where did it go? I have too many texts that are unopened. Was an awesome show. Keep it up. You know, it's funny. I get, we talk about some things sometimes and we lean into things a little bit heavy and people don't want to like publicly share it. I mean, when we get to a place in society, to me, that you don't want to do that to certain things, I think that's pretty scary.
This came up in my campaign last year, and there's not so many. There is a small group that is extremely vocal, and if they disagree with something you post on social media, they will headhunt you. Mm. They will try to get you fired from your job. They'll basically try to cancel you completely. It happened to me, and I know that there's other people that they're like, Craig, we support you, or we support what you're saying, but they know that they can't put it on social media because they're worried about their job or their family and how their family would be treated. That's what's wrong.
And mind you, we're not talking about some illegal comments, or we're not talking about telling people to do things that aren't proper. People are being canceled just because they're trying to make a living, and
because they're sharing a different opinion.
Yes, and their opinion's different.
It's wrong.
Sad thing.
First Amendment.
Where are we at? Yeah, right. First Amendment, 1A.
Yep.
And 2A is there in case 1A doesn't work out.
Yes, it is.
What were you were looking something up?
You're talking about law enforcement, and I just wanted to, while we're getting into the weekend, if you can just remember, there's a police officer killed up at the Red Lake Indian Reservation last week, and he's going to be interred on Monday. He was married 2 months ago. He's from Buffalo. Ryan Bielke will be interred on Monday. He was shot and killed in the line of duty. He's 37 years old. Doing his job.
And if that doesn't give you goosebumps like it just gave me, then you need to check into some sort of something and get that looked at, because these types of things are happening all over. I was at a hotel in California, and right down the road from where I was, I shouldn't say right down the road, probably 40 miles away, I guess, but riots, LA was on lockdown again or whatever, and mask mandates and riots and violence, and there was helicopters overhead. And so I jump on my computer and look it up, and apparently one of the rioters that was causing violence fled in the car, and there was a high-speed chase right down, the helicopters were right overhead. He was like 3 blocks away from the hotel I was in, live on, this is really happening. Mm-hmm. This stuff is as real as it gets. And we need to say shooting a police officer is that police officer, freaking human being.
They just want to get home at the end of the day.
They want to get home.
They want to go home and hug their kids at the end of the day. How many people have that job where you're worried that you may not see your wife
every day?
Every day.
They are worried every day.
Yeah. And, we've talked about,
it kind of makes me angry that people are the way they are with some of this stuff, honestly. Yeah. Let me say this. We talked about the article with electric cars, right? And so is that good for Minnesota to have California? Probably not.
Politics?
Exactly. Probably not. Is it good for the federal government to come in and say that everything let's talk about guns for a second, because we said 2A. The federal government to come in and say some of we have the Constitution, the right to bear arms, have it on your person.
Protect us from other countries.
Yes.
Protect us from our government.
And the people that are who shot this police officer, right? And I travel around the entire country. It's great. I love it. It's different everywhere. Mm-hmm. The laws that make Minneapolis work, or wait, that doesn't work. Never mind. That was a bad example. But the laws that would work in a large metropolitan area like the Twin Cities in Minnesota are not going to work in Nisswa, Minnesota. Period. I don't care how you want to approach that. It's not going to work. They're also not going to work in Grants, New Mexico,
right,
and all these other things. So stop.
But the Constitution seems to work everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah.
And we could go down some.
Oh, we could. Let's wrap it up. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you hammer the like button, hammer the share button. It helps us out quite a lot. We're working class people just trying to bring a message of what's real, what's reality, and not be too hyperbolic over it, unless it's entertainment section, right? I mean, insane. They can do stuff like that. See you next week. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.